We're now going to talk through the timeline that sets up and kind of captures all of the sequence of events that surround the event study. So first up, let's start with just what an event study looks like. So let's look at kind of this timeline. The timeline, the first thing that we're going to want to talk about is going to be this event that here is in the middle. The event is typically going to be viewed as time 0, so that lowercase t is going to represent the time or where on the timeline. So we have this event here in the middle, and then we have kind of some time period that goes around the event window. Before the event, we have what is referred to as the estimation window, and then after the event, we're going to have the post-event window. So we're going to go through kind of each of these windows, what they are, a little bit about how they work, and then we'll get into a bit more detail about all of them a bit later on as well. So first off, we'll start with the estimation window. So as this kind of suggests from the name, this is going to be the part of our event study where we're going to kind of estimate a model of what stock returns are like under normal circumstances. So it's going to give us kind of that baseline. It can also be referred to as that control period. So a lot of times when you're looking at it, you can think of it as, again, estimation window or control period, depending on who you're talking with about the event study. For this, again, the goal is going to be able to capture the normal behavior of the company. So it's going to give us kind of that starting point to see if stuff during the event is different. So it's going to give us kind of that information that we need. However, capturing normal behavior can sometimes be a little bit tricky. So that's going to tie into some assumptions that we're going to have to make kind of with working with this model that the time period you're looking at is an okay proxy for quote unquote normal time period or normal behavior. So when we're determining this normal behavior of a company, kind of the standard is going to be use 252 trading days, so a year look back of data. But this, again, how long your estimation window is going to be is often something that you as the user or as the creator of the model is going to get to decide. So you need to decide on a time frame that's going to give you a good baseline, a good starting point for your model. But a typical, again, standard approach is going to be to use the prior year, the prior 252 trading days. Ideally, you want to have a window, an estimation window right before, again, it's going to be right before your event occurs. And this is going to be a window that ideally should be free of problems. So you want something that's going to kind of, again, capture that normal interaction of the company within the marketplace. Of course, certain things may happen, but again, just you need a general baseline for your estimation window. And again, typically it's going to be some set number of days prior to your actual event. Once you have that estimation window, again, it's typically going to be the 252 days prior to your event, the start of your event window. The next part is going to be to talk about that event window. So estimation window gives us an idea of what we should expect if everything kind of stayed quote unquote normal. The estimation window is going to be looking at kind of what happened immediately surrounding that event. So again, typically it'll be some kind of announcement that the company made. So the event, again, think of it as like the merger announcement, the earnings announcement. Those are going to be, again, those events that we're talking about that we talked about in the prior video. So with the event window, we're going to be wanting to capture what happened during the actual event. So even though the event or the announcement will happen on a certain day, we typically are going to look at a couple days before and after the event. Why is this the case? Well, we'll typically look at a couple days before or a day or two before in case information is leaked out. So this is private information. The market shouldn't anticipate it, but a lot of times information can leak out and start being incorporated into the market. So we'll want to account for that stuff immediately surrounding the event. And then you'll typically want to look a day or two after the event window to kind of capture stuff, again, immediately after. For example, the announcement could have happened after market closed or right at market close, and therefore the information isn't incorporated till the day after. So typically, again, with this event window, you're looking at a day or two before, a day or two after. So oftentimes with this event window, you're talking 3 days surrounding it, 5 days surrounding it. Depending on potential information linkage, you could try to get like a broader window for this event-specific reaction. So you can have like up to 10 days. This window is typically decided, again, by the user. So you get to pick the estimation window, you get to pick the event window, and of course, it will also pick this post-event window, which we'll talk about here in just a second. So decided by you guys, the creator of the models, but standard is going to be like this 3 or 5 days or sometimes 10. In practice, you might also argue or see people use 2 days around the event, for example, the day of the event and just directly after it. So that can also happen. I didn't put it on here just because I think typically you want to, again, count for that information linkage the day before as well. But if you're looking at these in the real world, if you do see 2 days, that also is, again, your choice. So decided by the user. And then lastly, the post-event window. So the post-event window is going to be this third period, so the end of our time frame. And what this post-event window does is it wants to look at the long-term impact of the event. So typically the post-event window could range from just 1 month, potentially even shorter than that, depending on your assumptions, to sometimes they can go multiple years out. If you're looking at the long-term effect of something. So again, we're sticking with kind of like specific finance examples. You might have things that are bigger multi-year effects that you want to look at a much longer post-event window. And so maybe that would be appropriate for what you're trying to do. So again, this is going to be decided by the user based on the goal of information or the goal or information that is provided or that you hope to gain from the period. But generally what the post-event period is going to be is I just want to see the long-term effects from this thing. So from the merger announcement, from regulation that happened. So anything similar to that. So this is, again, going to be right after the event. We wanted to see more of the long-term effect. For you guys, again, when you're doing this, when you're doing your event study, you'll get to pick how long afterwards you want to look. And then why are we doing this? Why are we setting up this timeline? So the reason that we're setting up the timeline is we want to be able to take our estimation information, so our normal behavior or what we normally expect from the company, and then during the event and post-event window, we want to see if the company acts any differently than what is normally expected. So how are we going to do this? We're going to do this by looking at abnormal returns, which is typically just AR. So abnormal returns are going to be the difference between the stock's actual return during the event or after the event relative to its expected returns. So abnormal returns, of course, can be either positive or negative. For example, the company, it was a good decision, the market's liking the decision, or viewing it as a positive signal, and therefore you're going to have positive abnormal returns. The company will do better than expected or than predicted. Or you could have negative returns, like this merger was not a good announcement. The company just announced they're filing for bankruptcy, which is not a good thing, and therefore will have significant negative abnormal returns. Additionally, we have cumulative abnormal returns. So this is just going to be looking at the consecutive impact of this. So it's going to be looking at the impact if we're using daily returns, like day to day, the cumulative overall combined effect. So we will go over how to get these, how to solve for these in a second, in just the next video. But I just wanted to start off by just giving us kind of an overview of what those things are. So next up, we'll talk in a bit more detail about how you get these expected returns, how you get these abnormal returns with your actual data.